What's up, everyone? Welcome into the Sunday night recap presented by FanDuel. I'm your host, Simon, joined as always by my beautiful co-hosts, Jay, Josh, and John Luke. How are you guys doing?
Doing great. How are you doing?
I'm good. We got a little NFL appetizer last night, started getting the palate ready for a full Sunday of football. And then we've got an extended dessert tomorrow and Tuesday. We get 3 or 4 more games, right, over the next 2 days. It's a fun week for football. I'm excited. And it lined up with when I feel like a lot of people are getting off work for the holidays. It's just, man, it is setting up.
There's 8 days out of the next 11 that have NFL football.
Next 10. Even more
11.
Even more
next 11.
8 days, every day football, except the days there's not. You heard it here first. Also, my apologies, guys. You got a sneak peek behind the curtain. That was meant. This is the precision that we operate with. I was letting everybody else know when we were gonna cut the intro and go live.
But very specific.
Exactly what he says too. 20 seconds means like right on the dot. Like you better be ready in 20 seconds.
Guys, today, before we get started, I wanted to remind everyone watching this, if you haven't done so already, make sure you are following FanDuel across all social platforms. They have a whole team of awesome content creators out there helping you win some money and win your leagues. And it is crunch time right now for fantasy football. It is the playoffs and season long. We're getting down the stretch. So FanDuel, you can find them on YouTube at FanDuel, Twitch at FanDuel, TikTok at FanDuel, Facebook at FanDuel. It's easy. Zynga, MySpace, any other ones you want to throw out? FanDuel. Guys, we are going to start off today talking about the Sunday night football game that we have coming up. Our very first game that we're going to talk about is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers against the New Orleans Saints going on tonight. Josh, I think you had our lines for this game.
Absolutely. So tonight, this game is going to be played at 8:20. The New Orleans Saints are underdogs, 11.5-point underdogs. So the Buccaneers are favored. They are at home. They're favored by 11.5 points. And when it comes down to it, guys, I like taking the Buccaneers here. The Saints don't have Sean Payton because of COVID. So I am taking the Buccaneers minus at 11.5 points. Simon, let's come to you first. What do you think there?
Man, that is a big line, but there is no part of me that can still take the New Orleans Saints on that side of the ball. I feel like this is the time, like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are looking really good right now. The Saints are bottoming out instead of peaking. This just seems like a game where the Buccaneers kind of make a statement. I expect it to be a big win for them.
JL, what are you thinking?
I don't know. They didn't. They had a hard time last time that they played the Saints. So I could see the Saints covering. I'll take the Saints covering this, but I do think Tampa Bay wins.
That's a great point. This time around, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are at home, though, in prime time. So I could see it going both ways, too. I could see it. Jay, what do you think?
I did hear a rumor that Kevin James was going to be on the sideline for the Saints to try to throw things off for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Yeah. So the players look to the sideline and be like, you know what? Because, he looks exactly like Sean Payton. So the players will think that he's on the sideline. So with that being the case, Kevin James on the sideline, I think that the Saints are going to cover the spread.
Paul Blart must start.
Paul Blart must start.
It looks like we are taking two of us are taking the Bucks minus 11.5, and 2 of us are taking the Saints plus 11.5. So it seems like it could be a fun game, guys. Regardless, the over/under.
I think losers have to make a horse noise next week on stream.
I'm about it. We're not going to be here next week, but yeah, I'm about it. Yeah. You want me to put it on the board?
Let's put it on
when
the
it
board.
goes on the board. I'll put it on the board. Give me a second. I'll keep that one in mind. But Simon and I have the Bucks minus 11.5. Jay and JL will go with the Saints here. The over/under is 45.5. I'm actually taking the over here. I don't know if you guys actually want to cover this, but there's a couple player props I actually like as well here. I like Alvin Kamara over 30.5 receiving yards. And I like Rob Gronkowski over 4.5 receptions. I think there's going to be a lot of completions. There's going to be a lot of passes flying around this game. Taysom Hill is going to get his. Alvin Kamara is going to get his on the ground too. But I'm taking the over on both of those there. Those are the player props I like
both of those as well.
I don't dislike either of those either. Sorry, excuse me there. So just for an update for people watching, I know there were questions about Leonard Fournette earlier this week and his availability. He is available for this game, correct? Leonard Fournette is expected to play full snaps.
He's expected to play. He's He's currently still listed as questionable, I believe, but everything we've heard coming out of Tampa Bay is saying that he will be in there.
Yeah, I think that was the one big one from this game. Some games were hit a little bit harder, but I think that's the big one that we were waiting for. So hopefully this is a situation where he's expected to play and he comes out and it's a Dalvin Cook type situation and not some of the other ones we've seen this year where expected to play means 3 carries and then Ronald Jones gets the bulk of the work there. JL's mom, welcome in, said favorite Sunday show. Hello, FYF and FanDuel. Glad to have you here. And FanDuel, and you're saying wacky week 15.
It really was.
I'm telling you, the
very
NFL is broken this year. There's something broken about it. It's not working right. I think we need to turn it off and back on again. Also, Joey in here saying that he loves the Kamara prop, Josh. He's with you on the over 30.5 receiving yards.
I think it's a good line. I think it's a good line to hit that over on.
Guys, we're going to move on to our first game, the first recap of the day, the New York Giants versus the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys came on top in this one, 21-6.
Oh, yes, they did. The Dallas Cowboys were 11.5-point favorites coming into this game, and it was a 43.5-point over-under. So the over-under, it was a way over here. Where the Dallas Cowboys won 21-6, like you said. But the Dallas Cowboys did cover the spread. It was a divisional game. The Cowboys are very, very happy to actually get the win here. But fantasy owners, on the other hand, were mostly disappointed with the production on both sides of the ball here. I would say mostly, not completely.
I started the Cowboys defense, so I was very happy with the production there.
Well, they did get a sack, a forced fumble, 1 fumble recovery, 3 interceptions, only allowed 6 points. They were a pretty easy start this week. But when we look at the offensive side of the ball here, we see Dak Prescott, we see Ezekiel Elliott. He was actually someone you were happy with here. Tony Pollard, on the other hand, he kind of still ate into Zeke's carries here. You were also happy with Dalton Schultz, right? You're also happy seeing Dalton Schultz out there.
Yeah, Dalton Schultz had a good game.
We have to be concerned with Dak Prescott and the whole passing game at this point from a fantasy perspective. Next week, the Cowboys play the Washington football team. If fantasy managers are able to overcome this week, they're stuck with making some difficult decisions going into next week, including if they should start Dak. I think everyone's still starting CeeDee Lamb, but can you have any confidence in Amari Cooper at this point? JL, I want to come to you. Amari Cooper, what do you think?
I never have confidence in Amari Cooper. I refuse to have confidence in Amari Cooper. 5 targets this week, 7 targets last week, 2 targets the week before. He's just not, especially at this point in the season. I just can't trust Amari Cooper. I can't trust this offense. If there's someone I'm trusting, a wide receiver on the team, it's CeeDee Lamb and even Dalton Schultz over Amari Cooper.
Makes sense. I just don't know how you could have any confidence starting him. Jay, what do you think?
Yeah, and I was very high on Amari Cooper coming into the season. But he hasn't produced like he did last year. And the big reason is this Cowboys defense is playing a lot better than it was last year. The beauty of it last season was that because the defense was so poor, even with Andy Dalton starting, they were throwing the ball a ton because they were playing a lot of catch up, and they don't have to do that this season. So catch up's okay on certain things, not like, not steak or hot dogs or anything, but
or anything.
Every now and then. But that being said, I think you have to start him. It's very highly unlikely that you have another option that has the upside that he does, especially on this offense. But it's definitely not the production that you expected when you drafted him this season.
Yeah, I'm JL, you said you refuse to trust Amari Cooper, and I hate that right now you're right, because like you take that approach over the past 2 years, you've been wrong a lot not trusting him. He's been wildly consistent with the Cowboys, but this offense just isn't what we thought it was going to be going into the season, especially not after week 1 when they threw 50+ passes. It seems like it's been all downhill from there, but it's concerning. We got a lot of questions about Dak Prescott this week on stream that we were answering. Like, you got to keep starting him. And Josh, I'm with you. That's after this week. If you do advance and Dak Prescott's your quarterback, and you've got Amari Cooper, both those guys, you've got some serious questions to ask about who you would be willing to start over them. I'm more in line with JL here, and that hurts my feelings because I'm a huge Amari Cooper fan.
Well, that leads me to my next question. Who would you rather start next week? I got a couple of guys. We have Brandon Cooks, who just had a very good game, or Dak Prescott, and they or Amari Cooper, who plays the Eagles next week. JL, what do you think? Brandon Cooks or Amari Cooper?
Who's Brandon Cooks playing?
I don't know.
He's playing the Chargers. Ugh. God, this sucks. You know what? I'll go Brandon Cooks. Since Davis Mills is in 11 targets and last week, and then 10 targets this week, I'll take the bad matchup.
You know what? Give me Amari Cooper still. I'll take Amari Cooper here. It's a bad matchup, but he can still do it even in the offense. We saw it last week. While it wasn't like a huge outing, it was still a good week. 7 targets, 5 catches, and a touchdown. That's within the range of outcomes for a receiver like him. And I'll take the supposed upside of this Dallas offense, even though we haven't seen much of it recently.
Jay?
I'm going to lean Amari Cooper too, only because of the tough matchup. The Chargers have been very difficult for wide receivers this season from a fantasy perspective. So it's closer than I would like to admit, but I'm going to lean Cooper based on the matchup.
Fair enough. And we're still pretty confident with CeeDee Lamb getting his 6 catches, 9 targets, 50 yards. I know it's a little bit disappointing from a fantasy perspective, but we're still putting him in all our fantasy lineups next week, right, guys?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think you have to.
And Dalton Schultz, real fast on Dalton Schultz. Has he entered like the second tier of tight ends? I know there's this top tier of George Kittle, Mark Andrews, and obviously Travis Kelce, who just exploded on Thursday night. But Dalton Schultz, like we were a little concerned. Amari Cooper coming back, getting healthy. Michael Gallup getting healthy, having all 3 of these pass catching options. But Dalton Schultz continues to be a pretty consistent option in this offense. I think I know he had a bad week last week, but I think you pretty much need to start him going forward. Does anyone disagree there?
I don't think he's a must-start kind of player. Like you said, last week 3 targets, the week before 5, 2 weeks before that 7, 8, great, but then 2, 5. I think he can be for the forgotten piece in this offense. He's not always going to be the forgotten piece. He's going to have these big games like he did today, but he's still not one of those guys that I trust is going to get at least like 6, 7 targets in a game. There's very real outcomes where he gets 2, 3 targets, and that's not a tight end I want to start.
Yeah, I'm with Simon. I just don't trust him at this point to throw, feel like I need to throw him in every week.
Yep. Also, what's up, Marty? Welcome in. Marty has a question for us. Hurts or Taysom? Jay, where would you be going here? Would you be going with Jalen Hurts or Taysom Hill?
I would go Taysom just because we know he's going to start. There's 2 things working against Hurts. One, he's questionable. There is rumors that Gardner Minshew could start, but not only that, the game is on Tuesday. There's a chance he could get COVID and be out for the game. So with the playoffs on the line, you should get solid production from Taysom. I would take the guy that's starting.
Josh, what do you think here? Do you agree with Jay, or are you waiting it out for Jalen Hurts?
Yeah, I mean, Jay summed it up perfectly. They're close enough as it stands. So take the guy that's playing.
That is playing.
Yeah, for sure.
JL, do you agree with these 2 guys?
No, I think I would lean Hurts here. The matchup is nice. Taysom Hill, there's a chance he does just make, get his points on the ground, but anybody can get COVID at this point too. So I would just rather have Hurts.
I mean, there's a chance the game just canceled, I guess. That's another
Yeah.
I think for me, there's more upside with Hurts, especially it's a better matchup for the quarterback position Jalen Hurts has. There's more upside. If you are down big, I'd be more willing to take that risk of waiting for Hurts because I do prefer him in a vacuum. I think there's more upside for him. But if it's a close game, if you're up and you just need to get some points from that quarterback position, I'm with you, Jay and Josh. I would go Taysom there. That is it for that, though.
So we also have Ezekiel Elliott that I want to talk about, who had a pretty good game himself. But real fast, I want to cover the Giants for a moment. There's really only one person that I think is extremely relevant on the Giants side of the ball going into next week, and he didn't even have a good game himself, and that's Saquon Barkley. So my first question on this side of the ball, on the Giants side of the ball, is there anyone outside of Saquon Barkley who didn't have a good game himself that you are going to want to put into your lineup next week? Because the answer for me is no. Jay, you're the Giants fan.
I'll be honest with you. I don't even want to start Saquon Barkley at this point.
Take him out of it. Take him out of it. We're going to get to Saquon. Take him out of it. He's out of this.
Not
one
a
else,
single
right?
Giant I'd want to start. Nope,
right?
Absolutely not.
How about you, JL?
Nope.
Simon?
Nope, not a single one.
All right, perfect. That's what I wanted to hear. So since we took Saquon out of there, we're going to get into Saquon Barkley here. In a normal 12-team PPR league, would you want to start Saquon Barkley or Ezekiel Elliott next week? Saquon Barkley, just to let you guys know, is playing the Washington football team, and Saquon Barkley is playing the Philadelphia Eagles. Jay, we'll come to you first with this one again. Jay.
Yes, not. You've broken him. You've broken Jay.
Am I good? I think I froze up there for a second. No, this Giants team has broken me. Dave Gettleman has broken my spirit. That's what it is. I honestly, I think at this point you got to put in Zeke. Booker, has looked better than Saquon Barkley these past couple of games. It really hurts to say, but I think that injury is still lingering. There's a real chance that Jake Fromm could start next week. Mike Lennon was pulled. It doesn't sound like Daniel Jones is going to be back anytime this year. I would start just about anybody that's getting any sort of volume over Saquon Barkley at this point.
I'll start Zeke as well. I think maybe it's a little bit closer. I don't have like I wasn't as spurned as Jay was by Saquon Barkley as a Giants fan, but I think Saquon's still startable. It's just a changing of expectations. He's an RB2 now. This was a bad week even for an RB2, but that's how I view him going forward. And not even a top end RB2, just a middle of the road RB2. While I think Zeke still has some of that upside. He's a high end RB2, low end RB1 kind of play the next couple weeks.
I think I would go Saquon out of this. I'll go against the grain here. Saquon, he's 15 rushing attempts for 50 yards, no touchdowns. 8 targets, 4 receptions on 8 targets, 24 receiving yards. And he looked good on certain points of this game today. I would just follow the work here. He hasn't been that bad. He, like Simon said, he's been like an RB2 the last 4 to 5 weeks. So I'm fine throwing him in against Philly.
Yeah. So real fast, before we get away from this, there was one Saquon. I agree. It's Zeke over Saquon 100%. But can you guys put these guys in order for me? There's Zeke, Saquon, CEH versus the Steelers. CEH got 8 points this week, and he's playing the Steelers next week. And there's Deontay Foreman versus the 49ers, Deontay Foreman got 22 carries and 14.5 fantasy points last week. So put these guys in order. For me, it's Zeke, CEH, Saquon, then Foreman. And it feels a little chalky for me just because, you're putting the top tier talent up top, but Foreman got the most carries. He's probably going to get the most work next week as well. So Simon, I want to come to you first. Can you give me an order here? Because I'm still going Zeke, CEH, Saquon, Foreman for next week.
Man, my order is identical, but you might as well Saquon, CEH. I feel like you could flip those guys back and forth in my eyes. I might as well say Zeke, Saquon, CEH, Foreman, but those guys are neck and neck. But Zeke's the clear 1 for me, and Foreman's the clear 4.
And Jay, what do you think?
I'm going to go CEH over Zeke. I'm going to go CEH, Zeke. I was tempted to put Foreman over Barkley. The only reason I'm not is they play on Thursday night, and getting that type of carries, playing on Thursday night with a short turnaround, I'd be a little worried about his production. So I'm still going to go Barkley and Foreman last.
Gotcha. And JL, what do you think?
I think this is tough. I think I would go Saquon. I'd go Saquon and then Zeke and then CEH, then Foreman.
Foreman last, guys. We all have Foreman last. The guy that got the most carries, the most work this week, we're putting last. And I did it, but I think we should put a little bit more respect of Foreman's name, who it seems like the Titans do want to give him the work. And I know we're going to get to the Titans game. But anyway, that will wrap it up. We obviously, most of us think that Zeke is ahead of Saquon going into next week, but Saquon looked pretty good. So your point, JL. I think when it comes down to it, Tony Pollard looked better than Zeke. So that's all I had for this game.
What's up, Kev? Welcome in. Bird up, and I assume that's just going to go with J Few's comment as well. Let's go, Ravens. This game is wild. Looks like it just hit the 2-minute warning. They're down by 7 is what I'm seeing. They're down by 7 with the ball at the 2-minute warning. So, Josh, yet again, and JL, your Ravens are the most exciting team in football. And FanDuel said, but
very good point. I was going to say
today makes him number 1. Yep.
That's true. That's true.
That is true.
That was one of the best.
He should have got 2 points for that catch in fantasy.
That catch was
phenomenal.
beautiful.
Guys, we are going to move on to our next game. The Miami Dolphins ended up winning this game 31-24. Tua looking like a madman in the second half in this one with how he came out playing.
Yeah, and before we jump into that, I did want to address Marnie said he's down big. So with that being the case, I would switch my answer to waiting for Hurts. I think there's a lot better chance of Jalen Hurts having a huge game versus Taysom Hill. So I just wanted to bring that up as well. Does that change anything did anybody else say Taysom Hill would change it?
No,
Josh
I'm going to still go with
Taysom
Taysom
Hill.
I'll go.
We'll start on the Jet side.
Myself. Yeah.
Okay. We'll start on the Jet side of the ball. Zach Wilson continued to disappoint. 170 passing yards, no passing touchdowns, no interceptions. He did have a rushing touchdown, but also fumbled the ball away. He is really disappointed this season. You know, there was a lot higher expectations, even being on the Jets as the number 2 pick overall. This is his 5th game on the season with under 200 passing yards. Granted, he did leave week 7 with an injury. He's only had 2 games over 250 passing yards, no games over 300 passing yards, and he's thrown 6 touchdowns to 11 interceptions on the season. So we're going to change things up a bit with this question. We're going to look at a dynasty aspect. So for dynasty purposes, Josh, we'll start with you and go down.
Mm-hmm.
Is Zach Wilson a buy, a sell, or a hold?
I just don't know if you can sell him for too much. I mean, obviously, a lot of dynasty leagues nowadays are going to be super flex leagues, and if it's super flex league, then I think he's a buy. He's absolutely a buy in a super flex league. But outside of if it's a normal 12 team, standard, PPR league with just one, you're only starting one quarterback. Zach Wilson really has no value to me. So he's a buy in super flex because I think you can probably get him pretty cheap. In a normal league, he's almost droppable,
JL, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, he's a rookie, so you got to let him develop some. So in dynasty formats, of course, you gotta just have him on your bench, let him develop, and hope that he becomes a good asset. Still in the Jets, I still don't expect him to come and be like a top QB, but I think he'll be relevant, and I think his value will go up.
Yeah, he's 22 years old on a bad Jets team in his first year in the NFL. I feel like we have seen, while very brief, we've seen some flashes of why he was the number 2 overall pick. They have not been common, and we have not seen them consistently, but we have seen them at times this season. I'm holding on. He's a buy in Superflex Dynasty for me. Go get him while you can, because there's a world where he comes out year 2. Is big for a lot of these rookie quarterbacks that are kind of struggling. So I'm excited to see what him, Fields, and Lawrence do in year 2.
Yeah, I'm completely with you guys. I think he's a buy as well. Or a hold if you have him. I definitely would not be looking to trade him away. Not only, is he a rookie, but his weapons around him have been injured. Michael Carter's missed time. Elijah Moore's missed time. Corey Davis is out for the year. So there's been a lot of inconsistencies. This Jets team, coming off of the Adam Gase era, has a lot of things to fix. So I'm with you guys. I think that Zach Wilson is somebody you should be looking to acquire in dynasty leagues.
Sorry, I heard Adam Gase's name, and that's just immediately what came out of my mouth.
Well, speaking of Michael Carter, he came back from injury, but he only managed 18 yards on the ground while he had the same amount of carries as Tevin Coleman, who had 50 yards on those 8 carries.
Suck it, Michael Carter.
Take that.
Be nice.
Be nice to him. He just came off from injury.
I was backing you up. You're the one being mean, Jay.
He just read his stats.
It's a statement of fact.
He only managed 18 yards. You tell me that's not sassy? Get out of here.
It's the truth, is it not? He had an amazing day with 18 yards rushing on the ground, coming back from injury. Is that better?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Do you guys think? You guys think this is just a case of him being eased back, coming back from injury? The Jets not much to play for this season, or is this turning into a timeshare for the rest of the year?
I don't know if the Jets know. If we're being honest, I don't know if it matters. That's
really a blanket statement. You could just say for everything.
I don't have confidence that they're gonna use him the rest of the season. This could be a timeshare. Maybe they just were easing him back in. I'm trying to avoid starting any Jets running backs in the rest of the fantasy playoffs if I can avoid it. If you have to start one, it's still Michael Carter for me, but man, it is not the RB1 that I thought he was going to be halfway through the season when he started taking over this backfield. He's I don't want to start him, not even in a flex play.
Yeah, I'm with you there too. Not really much to talk about with the Jets receivers. Jamison Crowder led the way with 8 targets, 5 catches for 40 yards. But honestly, until Elijah Moore comes back, they said that he does have potential to play in the last 2 games of the season. You're not starting any Jets receivers.
Not at all.
Moving
Also,
on to the Dolphins, Tua had an up and down day. Okay.
I was going to say the Ravens look like they just scored. They're
Tyler
doing
Huntley.
it again, making it
Are they going to go for
close
2?
game right here. I do not
That's the
know.
question.
So we'll keep you
seconds
guys
left.
updated on that. Or I guess you guys keep us updated on that as well. Jay, sorry, go ahead. We were talking about the Dolphins.
No, all good. I think I'm a little behind there for just a second. But Tua had an up and down day. He only managed 196 passing yards, threw 2 interceptions, but did also have 2 touchdowns. This offense definitely did not look as good as it has with Jalen Waddle out with COVID. I expect better games out of Tua going forward, especially when Waddle comes back. But the big story for the Dolphins was the running backs. Coach Brian Flores earlier in the week said that even though Myles Gaskin was activated off the COVID list, that the guys who've been getting the reps in practice would very likely get the touches. And I'll be honest, I didn't believe him. I don't think much of anybody believed him. But Duke Johnson had 22 carries, 107 yards, 2 touchdowns,
Duke
and he
season,
chipped
baby.
in one catch for 20 yards. Granted, it was against the Jets, who give up the most fantasy points to opposing running backs. Myles Gaskin had himself a game against them in Week 11, getting 18.6 points against the Jets in Week 11. Simon, we'll start with you and we'll work our way up. Did Duke Johnson do enough this week to turn this into a committee? And it's a 2-parter. Did Duke Johnson do enough to make this a committee? And are you interested in picking up Duke Johnson off of the waiver wire?
If this was week 3, yeah, absolutely. He would be one of my top waiver wire ads. I'm not going to take one game with Myles Gaskin coming back questionable to even play earlier this week. These 22 carries against the worst run defense in the NFL, and then have any sort of confidence to plug him into any of my lineups in the fantasy playoffs. No, maybe I pick him up as defense, but unless it is like a dire situation, I'm not starting him. I'll pick him up and throw him on my bench though, so someone else can't grab him.
And I did want to add too, the next 2 matchups are against the Saints and the Titans, who give up the least and second least amount of fantasy points to opposing running backs. So take that for what it's worth.
Yep.
JL?
No, I completely echo what Simon said. I was about to say it's the Jets. I'm not taking too much stock into that.
Like that was the end of it. It's the Jets. That's all you got to say.
The Jets, yeah.
Josh?
Yeah. You're not going to want to start him. I think Myles Gaskin is going to be much more involved going into next week. He's going to be more involved in the passing game. Probably if you made me bet right now, I would say Myles Gaskin gets more carries than Duke Johnson did next week. But I know it was against the Jets, but Duke Johnson did look very good. He looked like the better running back when he was out there. So if you're
22 carries,
if you're super desperate,
that's the thing.
I think there's also a factor where he was practicing all week. He was the back there. Myles Gaskin came back kind of late. So I think the best case scenario here going forward next week, if you're hoping for Duke Johnson's success, is that he gets a touchdown because maybe he is the goal line back.
Yeah.
But I don't want to start him.
No, I'm with you guys. And Jalen Waddle was out with COVID. Devontae Parker had a solid game. 4 catches, 68 yards, and a touchdown. Had 8 targets. Oh, the Ravens. Again.
Yeah.
You see, that hurts.
Yeah.
Went for 2 and didn't get it. I'm sorry, Josh and JL, but man, do they keep it exciting
even though it
for you
hasn't
guys.
worked out, even though that didn't work out, I like that they do that. Like, you know what? Like, might as well.
The Packers too. Like,
yeah, with Tyler Huntley.
Yeah.
Go for it. Right. Like, go for the W.
Yeah.
Your best chance to win is to get 2 points.
I was fine with it last week too. But
yeah,
they got some heat for it last week, so they'll probably get even more heat this week.
But back to the game with Waddle out. Parker tied Mike Gesicki for 8 targets, which was the lead on the team. When Waddle returns from COVID, hopefully this week, potentially, are you still willing to start Devontae Parker as a wide receiver 3 or flex play? JL, we'll start with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Devontae Parker, when he's been healthy, has been highly targeted. He's gotten the opportunity. He's very talented. I'm absolutely happy playing him in my wide receiver 3 flex position, throwing him in a FanDuel lineup.
Yep, I'm right there with JL. Obviously, it's the upside is capped with Waddle back. I think Waddle takes over back as the one in this offense, but this Miami Dolphins offense, take this week out of it. The passing game's been pretty good the past couple weeks. I think it support 2 fantasy relevant wide receivers. Josh?
Yeah. I'll start him as a back end wide receiver 3 if Jalen Waddle is healthy next week. I'm not like super excited to put him on my lineup, but I'll start him over a lot of guys. I'll probably be starting him over guys like obviously any of the Cardinals wide receivers at this point, any of the Broncos wide receivers at this point. So, a back end wide receiver 3.
Back end wide receiver 3. Guys, we are going to move on to our next game now. And just like everyone predicted, the powerhouse playoff bound Arizona never mind. The 1-11-1 Lions beat the Cardinals 30-12. 30-12. I guess now they're 2-11-1. My apologies for downplaying that Lions. The Lions have a nice little winning streak going on now, believe it or not. I guess the very first piece of analysis here is what the hell, Arizona? I am so baffled by the results of this game. But I did see an interesting stat come up. The Cardinals this year are 1-4 when allowing 24 plus points and 9-0 when they allow less than 24 points. Any team they've held to 24 points or less, they have beaten. If a team gets 24 or more, they've only won once this season. So it looks like when this defense isn't holding up, we expect the Cardinals to kind of have this high-powered offense as well, but it seems like they're not keeping up in these games. Their defense isn't holding up right there. Also, thank you, Maria. I try my best with some of that analysis right there. We'll have more hard-hitting facts to come right there. Now, on the Lions side of the ball, though, on this one, Jared Goff, for the second time in the past 3 weeks, had 3 passing touchdowns. This week, not last week, it was the week prior, right? Yeah, week 13 versus the Vikings, he also had 3 passing touchdowns. So my question for you guys is Jared Goff, right now, it seems like there's some sort of role going on. The Lions are playing better than they have earlier in the season. Some of the young wide receivers are starting to step up. Does this elevate Jared Goff to a startable fantasy quarterback, or are you guys hands off with Jared Goff still? Josh, we'll start with you.
This was his second best game of the season. He had a little over 20 points in the scoring format I'm looking at. No, he doesn't have any upside whatsoever. And in your fantasy playoffs, Simon, you know more than most. You're looking for that upside a little bit more, right? Because you're probably playing a pretty good person, especially going into next week. So Jared Goff, while maybe he offers you a little bit of a floor, but I'm looking at his schedule. He's had multiple 4 or 5 games under 10 fantasy points. You can't have that from your quarterback in the fantasy playoffs. I have no interest.
I'm with you, Josh. The thing I was going to bring up is he scored 3 touchdowns, and he only had 20 fantasy points in FanDuel scoring.
Yeah.
You are needing him to have a 3+ touchdown game for him to even be a good quarterback for you. I don't have any desire to start him. JL or Jay, do either of you guys disagree? Are you upgrading Jared Goff at all? Does Albert's comment here that the Lions are playing the Falcons change your opinion at all?
This was I was going to bring up is that he's got the Falcons this week, which is a somewhat beatable secondary, probably one of the most beatable secondaries in the NFL. So if you need to, sure, you could throw him in. Upside is absolutely limited. It's still Jared Goff, but the matchup is very, very good.
Hey, what about you?
Yeah, I think in the most desperate situations in super flex leagues, with that good of a matchup, I think he's a floor play. He's definitely not the upside play, but he could very easily score you close to 20 points against pretty bad Falcons defense. So I think he went from unusable to emergency start status.
Yeah. The other player on this Lions team that I really wanted to talk to you guys about, though, was Amon-Ra St. Brown. It seemed like something has clicked over these past couple weeks. He is starting to turn it on. Over the past 3 weeks, this week included 11 targets, 12 targets, PPR fantasy points, 23.5, 15.3, 24.8 are his scores over the last 3 weeks. First, this is a 2-parter. One, Jay, we'll start with you. Do you have trust to plug Amon-Ra St. Brown into your fantasy lineups? Where do you view him as a wide receiver 2, 3, flex?
Yeah, with the amount of targets, the volume of targets that he's been getting in this offense the last 3 weeks, I'm absolutely comfortable throwing him in. As I said, he's got Atlanta next week. So if there's one wide receiver who I'm interested in, it's going to be him on this team, I should say, not just in the league. If there's one wide receiver I'm playing, it's Amon-Ra St. Brown.
And if I can't play him, I play nobody.
Yeah, sit down,
Well,
Devontae
you said
Adams.
against Atlanta next week. They're playing. What about him or Russell Gage? You know, I mean, because I was just thinking about what receiver is throwing over him. I think that's a great. They're probably end up neck and neck in my rankings going into next week.
Well, what about this one, guys? We were talking about him earlier, players that we would want to start over him. Just based on target volume alone, it seems like Amon-Ra St. Brown is a safer start than Amari Cooper is based on how they've been targeted. I'm not saying he's the better start, but would you guys start Amon-Ra St. Brown or Amari Cooper the rest of the way through the playoffs? Josh, we'll start with you.
I lean towards Amari Cooper still. I think the Cowboys will figure out a little bit of something. They have to get Amari Cooper involved a little bit. They were playing the Giants this week. They didn't need to pass to win the game. I lean Amari Cooper, but it's not that crazy to say Amon-Ra St. Brown at this point.
Yeah, one of them has Dak throwing to him. The other one has Jared Goff throwing to him. So it's still Amari Cooper.
Who our guy Herms in the chat just he said kind of looks like Ryan Gosling Goff. So I think that should be his official nickname. I think I could definitely see an argument for starting Amon-Ra St. Brown, but I would still have to go Amari Cooper. Man,
I was really hoping one of you guys would pick Amon-Ra because I think it is a conversation. No, I'm picking Amari Cooper. I just feel more comfortable with it. But
coward.
I'm the coward.
Do it.
FanDuel wants to know better wide receiver name, Amon-Ra St. Brown or Donovan Peoples-Jones?
It's got to be Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Amon-Ra St. Brown sounds like the name of like a god.
It means sun god, literally.
Then
Ra is the sun god.
I got a better one for you. Lil Jordan Humphrey.
You know what? You're right. He wins first place.
Yeah.
And then also, then Herms, this is what I was going to say. Donovan Peoples-Jones, what he is in the title. He's a man of the people. The people love him. Donovan, the Peoples-Jones. They love him. I'm changing my answer, Herms. I'm with you on that one. Donovan Peoples-Jones is the winner there.
Lil Jordan.
Amon-Ra St. Brown sounds like the name of like a small, holy Italian village or something.
Welcome to Amon-Ra St. Brown. Try our fresh made pasta. Guys, on the Arizona side of this ball, it was a rough outing for Kyler Murray. It did not look good for him out on the field today. But that being said, his receiving options didn't do half bad. He had a couple fantasy relevant receiving options here. Christian Kirk was the main beneficiary, but AJ Green had a decent enough game as well. What I will say though my question for you guys on those receivers, Kirk or Green rest of the season. I know there were some questions going into this game. I personally was on the Green side. I've now flipped. I'm on the Kirk side rest of the season, seeing how they were used today. Jay, would you be starting Christian Kirk or AJ Green? Which one's your preferred Cardinals receiver?
Honestly, it's a coin toss. I lean slightly Christian Kirk because AJ Green isn't quite, he's getting up there in age. He's not quite the receiver he was, but AJ Green had 8 targets. Christian Kirk had 12 targets. I think they're going to bounce back and forth between. Basically, you're going to want the guy who gets the touchdown. AJ Green almost had a touchdown. He had wound up dropping it. He was looking at him a lot. I watched a lot of this game, and there was a lot of close calls for catches for AJ Green. So I slightly lean Kirk, but I still think that AJ Green, especially in this offense, is pretty much a must start the rest of the season.
Josh, what about you? I see you nodding there.
Well, I go on the Christian Kirk side of things here. I think Christian Kirk is the wide receiver you want to start if there's any wide receiver. AJ Green is still startable. Don't get me wrong. You could absolutely still throw him in the lineup. But if I had to choose between these two options, it'd be Christian Kirk.
Also, what's up, Kyle? Welcome in. Glad to have you here.
What
and
up,
Smokey
Kyle?
the Cat as well. Welcome in. And Smokey has a question for us. Do we know anything on Joe Mixon? Do we have any updates post-game on Joe Mixon? Nothing that I've seen yet, Smokey, but we will keep an eye on that. And if anything breaks during the show, we'll make sure to bring it up over here. Also, what's up, Justin? Welcome in. Glad to have you here, Justin. The other thing I wanted to mention on this side, I talked about the receivers, but that's not it for the receiving option. Zach Ertz got 11 targets in this game, which for a tight end is just absolutely beautiful. There's not much analysis to be done here. I think if you have him, you're likely starting him. And if he continues to get this target volume, he's a real high upside tight end in this Arizona offense. Now, the running backs in this game, it was the return of Chase Edmonds to this offense. And they got him going, and he had some good carries, 6 carries for 53 yards. But some of the carries, he looked good out there. He looked healthy. He looked fresh. He looked ready to play. And so this is going to be a committee. I still expect James Conner to get more work on the ground than Chase Edmonds, but he's not going to get the same volume that he was getting while Edmonds was out. That being said, they went down in this game to the Lions unexpectedly. It was not the game script a lot of people were expecting, and it was not a friendly game script to the running back core. I think these are both guys you can start going forward. I'm starting James Conner with more confidence than Chase Edmonds, but I think you can plug Chase Edmonds into your flex. He's going to get enough carries to be relevant. Josh, how do you feel about Chase Edmonds in this offense now that he's back?
He's an emergency flex for me because at the same time, while he was more efficient with the carries he did get, he got 6 carries. James Conner got 8 carries. James Conner got 2 catches, 2 targets. Chase Edmonds got 1 target. So it just shows me that they don't think that Chase Edmonds is the pass catching back. While he might be a little bit better in that role, James Conner's still going to play a factor there. He's still going to be the goal line back. So James Conner is going to be the much more valuable running back in this offense for me. While Chase Edmonds, you can throw in there. I still have confidence in James Conner going forward when it comes down to it, but they are playing the Colts next week. They have a very good run defense. So I'm a little bit nervous for both these guys. Like we've talked about in the past, Chase Edmonds is absolutely lowering James Conner's floor, regardless of if you want to start Chase Edmonds or not.
JL, where do you land on this one?
It's James Conner for me. I completely agree with what Josh is saying. I think that we have to throw out our preseason notions or our preseason beliefs coming into the season that Chase Edmonds is going to be the pass catching back.
Preseason notions I like because it sounds like you're saying preconceived notions wrong, but you purposely said preseason notions, and I knew what you meant. But
album coming in the fall.
Preseason notions. That sounds like some like it's going to be like some like alternative indie electronic music, like with like weird like just like vocals over it in the background. Like it'll be like a hard beat. Yeah, there'll be a fist pump beat, and then just like angelic vocals in the background.
Josh doing that the whole time.
Guys, new show idea. Forget football. We're just gonna live produce a cappella electronic music on stream. Is how this is gonna go.
Love it.
That's my favorite kind of electronic music. I love some good acapella. I say acapella.
Acapella, amateur acapella.
Guys, amateur acapella electronic music. We're inventing genres over here. Also, what's up, Mr. Stampers? Welcome in. Said, why do the Steelers and Bengals hate Najee and Jamar respectively all of a sudden? I don't know, man. Maybe they got too involved and they were trying to knock their rookies down a peg or something. But it's been frustrating watching a lot of stars, not just those two, kind of have down weeks in the fantasy playoffs. It's been a rough week for a lot of the stars.
Before we move on, I do want to add, I'm a little higher on Chase Edmonds than you guys. I do still like James Conner a lot, but
I like me.
I like Josh
James Conner, Josh Conner, potato, tomato.
I
like Josh Conner. Chase Edmonds only had 1 less target. You said that he's lost his pass catching role. Conner had 1 more target. It's not like he had 6 or 7 more. And he only had 2 more carries. Granted, like you said, this game was they were down most of the game where it was very unexpected against the Lions, but I see Chase Edmonds more as a back-end RB2 versus, an emergency flex play. So I still think Conner is the running back to have in this backfield, but I think Edmonds is definitely a serviceable play down the stretch.
Absolutely. Guys, we're going to move on to our next game. It is not currently loading. I'll pull up something that we can look at here, but the next game we are going to be talking about is the Tennessee Titans versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh coming out on top 19-13 in this one.
This game was so ugly. It was the ugliest game I've ever seen. No one took this game to the dance because it was so ugly.
But it was competitive. It was competitive, I guess.
Ryan Tannehill and Big Ben.
No one took this game to the dance.
Yes.
You're mean.
Very ugly
because they're ugly.
game.
This game has a great personality, JL.
It does not.
JL, if I got taken to
Big
the
Ben's
dance,
personality.
if I got taken to the dance, this game can get taken to the dance.
I don't know. You might be overestimating it. I don't know if you watched much of it, but the only people who scored were Big Ben, Ryan Tannehill, and the kickers. That's it. That's the whole game. It was a bunch of turnovers, a bunch of kicking, and 2 quarterback rushing touchdowns.
Big Ben barely scored.
He really barely scored. That's the perfect way of putting it. It's like anytime Big Ben runs, it's like, wow, there's so much effort being put into it, but he's just not going anywhere.
There was a giant hole. It was literally like 5 yards. It was like, oh, it's so easy. He just has to fall in. He's just like,
we do run.
Oh, wait.
It's like in Family Guy where Stewie walks around with the trumpet just behind it. Like that's what I hear every time Big Ben runs the ball.
I just loved the announcers were like, Big Ben hasn't done the QB sneak yet this year.
Yeah,
They're like, oh my God, he's doing
giant
it.
hole.
And
Giant
they all just started laughing, like as he, like they were audibly laughing while he tried to run it in.
QB sneak.
QB sneaky
sneak.
about that.
But outside of, I mean, there was not a single player who was not a disappointment in this game, apart from maybe Deontay Foreman. You can make the argument, but even still, I mean, in PPR, he got 15.5 points, fantasy points. It's just not, it was not a great fantasy game to go around. So why don't we stick here on the Tennessee side of this? Deontay Foreman, I think Josh brought him up earlier. He had the most carries in this game, 22 carries, 108 yards, 2 receptions on 3 targets for 27 yards. And Dontrell Hilliard had 9 carries for 49 yards, 4 receptions on 6 targets for 10 yards. What is Deontay Foreman's value in Dynasty going forward? What do you guys think? Does he fade back into irrelevance with Derrick Henry coming back?
I 100% think he does.
If you remember, Deontay Foreman was like kind of a darling before he tore his Achilles, I believe it was a couple of years ago, and he's come back
with the Texans.
Sorry, continue, Sam.
I don't think he has any like long-standing dynasty value. He's got value in dynasty in the sense that he'll help you win a title this year. But after that, I fully expect this to go back to Derrick Henry. And then remember, Deontay Foreman, he didn't just win this job because Derrick Henry went down. Darrington Evans is supposed to be the backup running back here, and he also went down with an injury at the beginning of the season. And you know, Darrington Evans, in the limited work we've seen from him, he's a good back and he's a good fit with this Tennessee system. I expect Deontay Foreman to be behind both of those guys, not just behind Derrick Henry going into next season.
How you feel about him, Josh?
Yeah, not much dynasty value. Just not much dynasty. He needs a team to sign him that absolutely needs a running back. I think it's more likely than not he ends up as a backup somewhere where, you know, backup running backs. What value do they have in dynasty? Not a lot, especially with Foreman's, you know, injury concerns and his age at this point. So dynasty, not a lot of value, but I think, yes, I think he can help you win a championship this year. 22 carries. He's probably going to be starting in most lineups going into next week.
Yeah. The wide receivers on the Tennessee side of the ball, nothing interesting. Really nothing interesting. I like Mr. Scamper's comment here. He said this game had no personality or had 0 personality, cheated on all the tests, and punched the mascot's younger sister in the stomach. All around, not a good game. On the Pittsburgh side of this ball, Pat Freiermuth got knocked out during this game with a concussion. He did not return. Worth looking at. He might not be available for the following week, depending on how quickly he can go through that concussion protocol. So definitely keep that in mind.
His second one in a month, right?
Yeah.
So that's definitely concerning. So if he's your tight end one option going into championship week here, reconsider. Najee Harris, pretty disappointing game. 12 carries, 18 yards, 2 receptions on 5 targets and 8 yards. What do you guys think about Najee Harris in this game? What went wrong?
They were down. They were down early, which doesn't. Najee Harris, the beautiful thing about him typically throughout the season is he can't be game scripted out of games. He's still going to be involved in the passing game. He's still going to be involved in the running game if they're winning the game. So he's going to be on the field a ton. Going forward, I'm not taking a ton away from this game. There's no way I'm benching or even considering benching him. So while it sucks to see, if you're able to make it through this disappointing performance, don't think about it.
Yeah,
I completely agree with everything Josh said. It's just a one-off game. He's game script proof. Granted, he only saw 5 targets this game. But that's still pretty solid when you're thinking about a starting running back getting 5 targets.
Yeah, I like.
So
who
for
are you
me,
going to bench him for? You going to bench him for Jacobs? No, I don't think so. Know what I mean? And Jacobs is a good running back. Like, even that next tier down, I can't even consider possibly benching him for someone in that tier. He's a locked and loaded start. He's up there with the Jonathan Taylors, Austin Ecklers. I don't care what they do on the field. I'm starting them each and every week for the rest of the season.
Completely agree.
What about the wide receivers? Deontay Johnson, he got a carry for 10 yards, 5 receptions with 5 targets, 38 yards. The highest scoring receiver on this team, 9.8 fantasy points, PPR formats. James Washington was the second highest scoring wide receiver. And then Chase Claypool, another disappointment. I know last week wasn't that much of a disappointment, but he's a lot of people have been, I feel like, trending downwards on Chase Claypool. How are you guys feeling about him as we head into the offseason here?
Well, Deontay Johnson is a target machine. This is one of the worst performances of the year with 5 catches. That's kind of crazy. I love Deontay Johnson. Chase Claypool going in the offseason. He's a young wide receiver. He's just got to mature a little bit, I think, but he's got a ton of talent. So I like both these guys a lot. And next week they play Kansas City. I'm probably starting both of them, especially Deontay Johnson.
Yeah, I feel like you got to start Deontay Johnson at this point.
I had no other option but to start James Washington in a league this week.
That's awesome.
In the playoffs. And
you know probably like, that's what I expected.
I expected worse. It could have gone a lot worse than 3 catches for 36 yards. I got like 6.5 points. And you know what? That's a win having to plug him into my lineup. But I'm with Josh. I'm still buying in on Chase Claypool. If people are down on him, I will gladly trade at a lower value point than he was last offseason for him because he's unbelievably talented. It's just Big Ben doesn't have the arm, like Josh mentioned, maybe some maturity issues causing some maybe some locker room issues over there. And we've seen Tomlin before not put up with stuff like that, have on-field punishments for this kind of behavior stuff that's going on. So I'm in on Chase Claypool, just not for the rest of this season. There's a lot of other options I would choose over him.
Yeah. Herm say Claypool's still in that doghouse.
Yeah, I think Claypool is a huge buy in Dynasty. Like you said, Ben's arm is shot. My soon-to-be 3-year-old son has a stronger arm than Big Ben at this point. So
oh my
you could
God,
probably
as you
get
said
him
that,
for pennies on the dollar.
As you said that, the broadcast just replayed his QB sneak, and it's so funny. He looks so concerned falling into the touchdown.
It's so wide open, right? It's so open too.
It's like a grandpa, like, oh no, can I fit?
Oh, jeez.
Guys, before we move on to our next game, Come Here Now Beach 89 has a question for us. They're giving us their matchup and wants to know if they are going to win. On their side, they have Chubb, Evans, Gronk, and Jake Elliott going up against Matt Gay, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert, and Josh Jacobs. They are down 3. So the Chubb side is down 3. Who comes out on top in this one? Josh, I know you love to give percentages. What's the percentage chance on this?
You got this, man. Let's cancel out the kickers. Let's just cancel them out. Let's take out the kickers. Josh Jacobs and Chubb, we can even take them out. Listen, I think Chubb's going to have a better game than Josh Jacobs, but let's take them out too. Let's just do it. Let's just do it real fast.
Take everybody out.
You got Goddard and Gronk. I'm going
take
Gronk
them out
over
as
Goddard.
well.
Let's take them out. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
And Devontae Smith. You listen.
Take them out. Take them out.
Take them out. Now we got no players left, and you're down by 3, so you're good.
You win.
I'm joking.
Yeah.
No, but seriously, take out the kickers. Chubb over Jacobs, Gronk over Goddard, and Evans over Devonta Smith for me. So it's that simple.
Yep, I'm with you, Josh. I think you got this. I'd give
Take
you
them
an
out.
85% chance of winning this.
I'm giving 72.
72. Okay. Either of you guys, JJ, are you taking the other side in this one?
No.
100% chance you win. You won.
Sorry.
Also, Come Here Now Beach 89, our resident presidential trivia expert. He said, who's the only president not married? I do know this one,
Jefferson?
the Bachelor president. Do you guys know?
George Washington? I don't know.
No, Martha. Come on, get out of here, Josh.
Martha. Freaking Martha.
Buchanan. It was Mr. Buchanan who was never married.
If you would have asked me true or false, James Buchanan is the name of a president, I would have said false.
Do you know who the least guessed president on the Sporkle President's Quiz is?
No, why the hell would I know that?
It is Chester Arthur. Chester Arthur is the least known president name recognition wise.
Similar to what JL said, I wouldn't know if you just made up that name as a president, to be honest with you. So
Guys, I apologize. We went on a presidential tangent right there, but we are moving on to our next game, the Houston Texans versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. Houston ended up winning this one 30-16. And this one had big implications for the draft. This affected the draft
huge
order.
Implications. Now the Jaguars, I think, have the number 1 overall pick after this week. If I'm not mistaken, the Texans are second. I'm not 100% sure there, but the Texans came into this game as 6-point underdogs, and man, they obviously covered. It was a 40-point over under, and they hit the over. So this was kind of an exciting game from what we were expecting going in. But I don't want to spend a lot of time on this game. You know why, guys? Because there's really only 2 players across the entire game that I think are relevant for fantasy, and it's Brandon Cooks on the Houston Texans side of the ball, and James Conner on the Jaguars side of the ball. So I have 2 questions for you guys.
Conner.
When did James Conner go to the Jaguars?
James Robinson. I'm sorry, guys. James Robinson.
James O'Shaughnessy.
The Jameses, right? So let's start with Brandon Cooks.
James Harden.
Brandon Cooks, he's a wide receiver 2 for me. Is he a wide receiver 2 for you guys going into next week?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what you have to classify him. He's a wide receiver 2 with some upside. Like he has the upside in a game. This offense tries its best to limit that upside, but he's a talented enough receiver. And Davis Mills looks all right out there. Like, especially if Davis Mills is the starter, I have a little bit more confidence plugging Brandon Cooks in as a wide receiver 2.
I saw Jay shaking his head up there. What do you think,
I say
Jay?
more of a wide receiver 3 in a flex play. I'm a big Brandon Cooks fan, but I still don't trust Davis Mills. Granted, he is getting peppered with targets, but tough matchup against the Chargers. I lean more towards a wide receiver 3 or a flex play.
All right, JL. Sorry.
JL, show O'Shaughnessy some respect. Come on.
I did.
No, you didn't. You said his name.
What?
It was you who disrespected him, obviously.
How did I disrespect him?
No, we do not need to talk about him. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Scampers. I'm sorry. Like, just don't put him in your fantasy lineup, Scampers.
Yeah.
Just don't do it. Not next week.
Forget the name.
But JL, Brandon Cooks, wide receiver 2, back end wide receiver 2, because he's a back end wide receiver 2 for sure for me next week.
Yeah.
No. Don't be trying to influence his answer.
High end wide receiver.
Let him make his own decisions.
3. I'm my own man.
All right. JL says high end wide receiver 3, and that's fine, but that means he is going to be started in most leagues out there. James Conner on the other. James Conner. Why do I keep wanting to call him James Conner?
Actually, I take that back. Solid wide receiver 3, if not flex, with his schedule going forward.
The guy that just got 7 catches on 10 targets for 102 yards and 2 touchdowns this week. Okay.
Yeah, against Jacksonville.
Sure. Fair enough. Wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 for you. I'm fine with it. It sounds like he's still going to be started in most leagues. James Conner, I did it again. James Robinson over on the other side of the ball. 18 carries, 75 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 catches on 6 targets for 13 yards. James Robinson is a back-end running back 1 for me going into next week. All right, guys, a back-end running back 1. They're playing the New York Jets.
Yeah,
someone disagree with me. I dare you.
Absolutely not.
Someone disagree with me.
I have been waiting to be able to say James Robinson is an RB1 since the day we all wanted Urban Meyer fired. The second he started using him incorrectly, it's every week the comment was, this should be a slam dunk. This should be a slam dunk. This should be James Robinson. And you know what? I don't have to say this should be James Robinson anymore. You ask me James Robinson start sits question next week, there's only going to be like 8 guys that I would say over him going up against the Jets. That's what I'm talking
about, Simon.
I am.
That's what I'm talking about.
He's a back end RB1, and I am so excited about it.
Yes. Someone disagree. Jay, disagree. I dare you.
I can't disagree.
Yeah.
I love James Robinson. I got all pissed off because Urban Meyer wasn't using him. James Robinson is RB1 rest of the way.
JL?
I can't, Josh. You're a smart man.
Let's go. James Robinson is
a
back end running back 1 going into next week.
Yes, next week. Yeah. Against New England, I'm a little concerned, but
yes,
definitely next week.
Yes. And that guys, I'm telling you, that's all we need to talk about this game. Because if you're in the fantasy playoffs, don't start these other guys.
Yeah,
just don't do
everyone else, just stay away.
Just stay away from them.
Stop it. Come here, BH89. We're talking to you, Mr. Scampers. We're talking to you, Herms. Come on. But Herm's coming in and saying Connor must be J-Rob's middle name. So,
it is. It's James Conner Robinson.
It's J-Rob Connor.
That's why they call him
J-Rob. It's James Conner Robinson. That's just
exactly.
James Conner.
Well, it's James Conner's middle name Robinson.
No, absolutely not.
No, it's
That was
James
Jay,
Robinson.
don't be silly.
I'm
guys,
sorry. That was ridiculous. I don't even know why I said that. Sorry.
We're moving on to our next game, the Buffalo Bills versus the Carolina Panthers. The Bills ended up winning this one 31-14.
Yeah, so on the Panthers side of the ball, Cam Newton, from a real life perspective, did not play that good. Passing perspective, only had 156 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. But as we all know in fantasy, that's not where his value comes from. He rushed the ball for 15 times, 71 yards, and a touchdown. So he did get over 20 fantasy points against the Bills defense that is giving up the fewest points to opposing quarterbacks. Next week, the Panthers face the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are tough against the run, but have been susceptible to opposing quarterbacks, giving up the 5th most points. Are you comfortable starting Cam Newton in the semifinals of your fantasy football playoffs? Josh, we'll start with you.
Absolutely not. You use the words comfortable. Don't want to do it. Not at all. Especially in a normal 12-team league where you're not starting multiple quarterbacks. You're only starting one quarterback. There's just going to be a lot of other better options. I understand that Cam Newton runs, but they also talked about Sam Darnold even maybe coming back in this offense. Like you said, Jay, Cam Newton looked bad from a real-life NFL perspective. He could still get benched at any moment during the game. I do not feel comfortable starting Cam Newton next week.
No.
JL or Simon, either of you disagree?
In a 2-quarterback league, I would start him because I think he's startable. He's going to get you that rushing floor, but am I comfortable with it? Absolutely not, because he could get benched. Like at any given moment in a game, he's playing so poorly that they might bench him. But in a 2 QB league, I'm fine with him as my second quarterback taking that shot because of that rushing upside.
The rushing floor. The rushing floor, I feel like. But where was that rushing floor the last 2 weeks where, he scored a rushing touchdown each of those 2 weeks, 6.18 points in week 12 and 8.82 points.
Cam Newton has a rushing touchdown the last
14.
5 weeks.
Yeah.
Just call him Sam Darnold. Am I right?
Yeah. Just call him Sam Darnold.
They have 10 quarterback rushing touchdowns, I think, on the year. That's
ridiculous.
That's absolutely
unbelievable.
Insane.
But with Cam Newton getting all that work on the ground, there wasn't really much for Chuba Hubbard or Amir Abdullah to do. However, Abdullah did catch all 4 of his targets for 48 yards and a touchdown. But honestly, with Cam Newton taking so much work, you really can't trust either one of these guys. I'm not looking to start either one of them, even in the most dire circumstances. Any disagreement there?
Nope.
I don't want to start him.
Well, the pass catchers for the Panthers, DJ Moore led the way with 11 targets. He was only able to turn that into 6 catches for 48 yards, and he did catch a 2-point conversion. But it wasn't Moore's fault. Moore looked great out there. It's just at this point in Cam Newton's career, he can't throw the ball. He looks honestly about the same as Big Ben, if not worse. But with the Panthers going into the offseason, likely going to upgrade the quarterback position, whether it's a rookie, trading for a veteran, signing a veteran. Is DJ Moore a buy low in Dynasty? Josh, we'll start with you.
DJ Moore is an extremely talented wide receiver. I mean, I think the person that has him in Dynasty on their Dynasty team is probably realizing that he's still a talented receiver. If someone out there, though, is freaking out and thinking that he's just not the answer for the Panthers going forward, absolutely he's a buy low. You paired DJ Moore with even throughout the season with very bad quarterback play, he's put up respectable numbers. Now, there's really no upside we saw some of it at the beginning of the season, but there hasn't been much lately. So that's really been his biggest problem. I love DJ Moore in Dynasty. So yeah, definitely not a sell.
Yep, full agree. And Josh brought up the point I was going to bring up. DJ Moore is one of my most rostered players in Dynasty, and good luck trading me for him right now at any sort of discounted value. Because even though maybe his production has been lower than what we've seen, we've also seen him showcase how talented of a receiver he is in this situation. He's still getting peppered with targets. I am not trading at a discounted value, and if anyone's willing to do that, I would capitalize on it. But I think you're going to have a difficult time.
And he's still only 24.
He's so young.
So
yeah, I completely agree with these guys. Nothing else to add.
Yep. Basically, if you can get him at a wide receiver 2 value, I think you do that all day, every day. But moving on to the Bills, Josh Allen, not much to say there. He threw 3 touchdowns. He's somebody you're starting regardless of matchup. On the ground, though, Devin Singletary got 22 carries, rushed for 86 yards and a touchdown. Zach Moss was a healthy scratch. Breida only had 1 carry with matchups against New England and Atlanta. Do you guys think Singletary is a RB2 rest of the way?
No.
Not against New England, right? You got to be a little nervous about him against New England. But yeah, he's in my lineup. He's a flex play.
I'm not against New England. It's too scary.
That's right. Yeah. I can't do that with what we've seen from the Bills running game. I would JL.
But Jonathan Taylor had a good game.
Yeah, Jonathan freaking Taylor, okay?
I'm messing around.
And it took a long, a late end of game, long touchdown run to have that good of a game. So, but I'm with you. The pass catchers, Cole Beasley led the team in targets, but really didn't do much with them. Gabe Davis tied Stephon Diggs with 7 targets, but he led the way with 5 catches, 85 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Emmanuel Sanders is week to week and could return, but honestly, I think Gabe Davis with this performance, has cemented himself as somebody who you can start every week. It's more of a wide receiver 3 or a flex play, but I think you can start him every week. What do you guys think?
Yeah,
Jay, let me ask you, Devin Singletary or Gabe Davis, who would you rather start in your flex next week? I put you on the spot, Jay. I put you on the spot because I would start Devin Singletary still with the carries he's getting. I've been impressed.
So I'm going to say if you need 10-ish points, I'm going to take the easy way out. If you need a safe floor, Devin Singletary. If you're the underdog, you need that high upside, then go Gabe Davis. Devin Singletary is definitely the safer play.
Give me that upside with Gabe Davis. I want the upside there because I don't view either one of them as necessarily safe. I get what you're saying, Jay, but when I don't see a fully secure floor from Singletary, I'll take the upside with Gabe Davis.
And I would take Singletary there, by the way.
I get it. No issue with that. Guys, we're going to move on to our next game, the Atlanta Falcons versus the San Francisco 49ers here. And man, the Falcons just aren't very good, are they? This is not a good team. Mr. Scamper saying Moss inactive, he would go with Singletary. One of the bigger disappointments was Cordero Patterson this week. 11 carries, only 18 yards. And then he only had 2 receptions with 5 yards to add on top of that. Cordero Patterson has been a stalwart on your fantasy team almost this entire season. JL, are there any concerns after this game about Cordero Patterson in the fantasy playoffs? Is this when we finally see the fall off happen? Does he get you to the playoffs and then ruins your chances, or was this just a bad game for him?
I think it's just a bad game. He's been pretty consistent. 49ers defense is pretty solid. And the Falcons offense isn't that good. Next week he's got Detroit, which is solid. Following week he's got Buffalo, which is definitely not solid, but I'm still starting him week in, week out.
Yeah. I'm with you. I don't think you can bench him. The more interesting player that we want to talk about on this Falcons side of the ball, though, is Russell Gage. Over the past couple weeks, he seems to have come on fairly strong, taken on a bigger role in this offense with the absence of Calvin Ridley. And it seems to be working for him right there. So my question for you guys is, how are we viewing Russell Gage going into these fantasy playoffs? Josh, would you rather start Russell Gage or Michael Pittman Jr.?
Russell Gage has a safer floor. He's going to get more targets probably, but I think Michael Pittman Jr. is a more talented receiver. So it is going to come down to matchup ultimately for me. And if it's a PPR league, I'm going to lean more towards Gage. If it's a standard non-PPR league, I'm definitely going to lean more towards Pittman, who has a lot more touchdown upside in my mind. So they're close though. They're going to be very closely ranked going into this week. I got to give the edge to Gage at this point though.
Got to give the edge to Gage. Guys, we're going to do a different name game with all 3 of you on this one. JL, we are going to come to you next. Who would you rather start through the rest of the playoffs? Would you rather start Russell Gage or Darnell Mooney?
Darnell Mooney.
Darnell Mooney on that one. And Jay, we'll come to you for one more. Russell Gage or Christian Kirk, one of the Cardinals receivers we talked about earlier today.
I really like Russell Gage a lot, especially the volume that he's getting. But in that scenario, give me Christian Kirk. He's pretty much the wide receiver 1 for a very talented Arizona offense.
And Mr. Scampers has one more for us. He's throwing one out
Ooh.
there. Gage or St. Brown? I know this was brought up when we were talking about
Equanimous,
St.
right?
Brown. Amon-Ra St. Brown. JL,
No.
since you volunteered to go first, which one of these guys would you be starting?
I would be starting Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Is it the target volume alone on that? That's giving
No,
you that edge?
I like Russell Gage next week. They're playing each other. Atlanta's playing Detroit, so it's good matchup either way. You know what? I'll probably go Gage next week, and then Amon-Ra St. Brown the following week.
Josh, where do you land on this one?
This is super close, but I'll give the edge to Gage myself.
The edge to Gage. Guys, on the San Francisco 49ers side of this ball, do we have any concerns about Deebo Samuel now with his involvement in the rushing game? It seems like he had a good game this week, but it seems like his target volume has gone down a little bit since he's gotten more involved as a runner in this offense. Jay, do you have any concerns about Deebo, or is this just a different way he's going to get points for your team?
Yeah, I like that he's involved in the running game. Especially, he's getting touchdowns. I think he set, he was looking at a record for the most rushing touchdowns by a wide receiver in a season. I think he got that. I think it's just a different way to get points. He's a locked and loaded every week play, regardless of the matchup.
And he was the second receiving leader here, on this offense. So I think that might be overplayed a little bit.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I see it as a narrative being thrown around that as he gets more involved in this rushing game, his receiving work is going to go down. That's cause for concern. But we have running backs that are very active in the receiving game, and Deebo Samuel, I think, is just the other way around. He's a receiver who's finding some involvement in this rushing game, and they're finding success with it. I'm not worried about it. Albert wants to know.
When he's played, he has not scored less than 10 points in PPR formats this season.
Which is
super consistent.
That's super consistent. Do we know if Elijah Mitchell is out next week? Do we have confirmation on that, or
I'll take
a look
and see if I can find.
He was so close to playing this week that it's not a guess. It's just going off the context clues here. That just considering how close he was to playing, I would assume he does play next week.
Yeah. Guys, we're going to move on to our next game while Jay looks into that. The Cincinnati Bengals taking on the Denver Broncos in an unbelievably exciting, high-scoring game, winning this one 15-10.
Yeah, I think this was another Tyler Boyd week. We had one of these a few weeks back, and we talked about it. The Bengals just didn't pass very much in this game. Tyler Boyd, he had 6 targets, 5 receptions on 6 targets, 96 yards, and a touchdown. Higgins had 2 receptions on 3 targets for 23 yards, and Chase had 1 reception on 4 targets for 3 yards. Is this just can you guys take anything from the Bengals side of this on the receiving game?
No, I don't think you can take too much from this. Like you said, there wasn't much going on here. All the receivers struggled. We've seen what this offense can look like whenever it's clicking, and it wasn't clicking today. I think there's better days ahead, but man, disappointing all around.
Yeah, Joe Mixon was also limited. He had 17 carries for 58 yards. It's still a solid amount of volume, but just didn't score this week, which is disappointing because he's been scoring a lot. Otherwise, I don't really know that there's much to take here on the Bengals side. On the Denver side, Teddy Bridgewater was knocked out. Drew Lock came in and filled in for Teddy Bridgewater. How does this affect the Broncos' offensive pieces going forward as for the following next 2 weeks?
I don't think it changes much. Teddy Bridgewater wasn't doing a ton himself. Drew Lock is not the answer for the Denver Broncos, but I don't think anyone is. They were only able to score 10 points this game. The running game is going to be more or less the same, where it's a mix between Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams. They're both startable options. They're not locked and loaded at all, but you have to put both those guys in there. We haven't felt comfortable starting any of the pass catchers for the Denver Broncos for many weeks now, so that's more or less the same as well.
Right.
I think
Yeah,
Mr.
right
Scampers says it best when it comes to the Denver Broncos passing offense.
I agree.
That's basically everything that I have to say. And just to get back to Albert's question, Elijah Moore has still not practiced. He is still in concussion protocol, and the 49ers play on Thursday. So Kyle Shanahan was asked about it today, and he said he's hopeful, but is not expecting Mitchell to play on Thursday. So it's very much up in the air if he's going to play.
That's the lingo he used. He said he's not expecting him to play. Because that's pretty bad. I would say that sounds horrible. If I admit, like, that sounds like a bad situation. If he's saying not expecting to play, yeah.
I would say that sounds bad.
Analysis. That
I don't know.
Not good.
Just when you hear a coach say not expecting someone, then
I'm not optimistic, but I hope so, was the wording that he
That's
used.
not good. That's not good. Yeah, that actually lowers my confidence in him.
And it's more about his knee. So it's not even the concussion protocol, too. So he's still in concussion protocol. They're worried about the knee. So I honestly would not expect him to play this week.
If I ever say I'm not optimistic, but I hope so, the answer is no. Like that's just like I would never say those words if there was even a 1% chance of it being true. Guys, we're going to move on to our next game. The Ravens did it again. They are the most exciting team in the NFL. They've ended up on the wrong side of a couple of these recently, but by God, it doesn't matter who they're playing. They make it exciting, but the Packers came out on top 31-30 in this game.
And somehow they scored 30 freaking points. Like, who would have guessed? Like, they haven't scored this many points with Lamar Jackson out there, but Tyler Huntley, he looked he looked pretty good out there. Tyler
35.9 points.
Fantasy
points.
I think I'm going to replace my Lamar Jackson jersey back there with a Huntley jersey.
Yeah, the Huntley jersey.
You might as well at this point. So, let's go ahead. Simon.
I can't believe I started Patrick Mahomes over him this week. Is all I can.
What an idiot!
What an idiot move by me.
But JL just said it, 35.9 points. He had 28 completions, 40 attempts, 215 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, but 13 carries for 73 yards and a rushing touchdown. 2 rushing touchdowns as well. I'm sorry, guys. He is a fantastic runner, maybe one of the closest or one of the best rushing quarterbacks in the league when he's starting next to Lamar Jackson himself. So the Ravens did a great job finding a backup here. But let's say Lamar Jackson were out last week. We feel pretty good starting Tyler Huntley, right? He's got to be in the conversation
next
with
week,
Taysom
right?
Hill at this
You
point.
said last week.
Yeah, let's just say Lamar's out real fast next week. Jay. Tyler Huntley, he's kind of closer to Taysom Hill than we would have expected, right?
Yeah, I think anybody, like we've said, the Konami code, anybody that's able to put up that type of rushing production, it raises their floor. All they have to do is just be an average passer, and they're going to have a good day. So by all means, especially more in Superflex, one QB leagues, I'm not looking to start him, but in Superflex, I think he's. Whoever the starting quarterback is for the Ravens is a solid starter in Superflex leagues.
Yeah, they're passing a lot too. A lot of passing attempts.
They're letting them throw the ball. They've got their backup in there, but they're letting them chuck it. And I think a big reason they're letting them do that is having a guy like Mark Andrews out there, a very safe player that he can throw the ball to. Having him in this offense makes me a lot more comfortable starting Tyler Huntley.
Mark Andrews is a stud. He's right in that tier with Kelsey and George Kittle. They separated themselves, right, guys?
Yeah, absolutely.
You got to be a little concerned about Devonta Freeman, who looked like he had taken the starting running back role and ran away with it, but he only got 6 carries for 22 yards, while Latavius Murray actually was more efficient and got more carries this week and got more targets this week. So this is concerning going forward. I don't know if you can have confidence putting Devonta Freeman in your lineup going into next week. Guys, do you think you can put Devonta Freeman in there? Jay, I see you're shaking your head. So you agree with me?
No, you can't. Yeah, it sucks because it looked like you found a back end RB2, a flex play, somebody you could trust based on volume, and that's not the case anymore. So no matter who's starting under center, you might be in a situation where you have to, but I would be looking for any other viable option outside of Devonta Freeman.
So Duke Johnson.
I disagree.
Duke Johnson or Devonta Freeman?
Devonta Freeman for me next week.
Me too.
Yeah, but it would be Chase Edmonds over Devonta Freeman, right?
Devonta Freeman for me.
No.
This is 1 week, guys. It's 1 week where he got 6 carries. Right. The last from week 9 to week 14, he pretty consistently got between.
Well, look
13...
at Chase Edmonds.
All right,
points.
let's put.
I'm not talking about Chase Edmonds. I'm just saying I'm not taking
between those two.
I'm saying this is the Packers. I believe he got game scripted out in this game. I'm not going to take this and assume that this is how it's going to be going forward. I think it's just a bad game.
I think we've seen the Ravens do this. I was going to say we've seen the Ravens do this before this season. Taysom Williams was getting all the work, and they're not afraid to just switch backs to whoever's the more efficient back at the time, the hot hand. They're not committed to any of these guys, and so with a team like the Ravens, the backfield they have, how close all of those backs are talent-wise, I'm willing to switch my mind sooner than I am with other teams. And so I'm a lot less comfortable with Devonta Freeman than I was last week based solely on this game.
Yeah. Marquise Brown, he saw a good. That was great. I mean, I would say a great game, all things considered, having Huntley back there. I mean, 10 catches, 14 targets, only 43 yards, but getting 10 catches. He is a part of this offense. I still think he's a wide receiver too. You got to start him. You got to be, regardless of who's quarterback. On the Packers side of the ball, Aaron Rodgers did Aaron Rodgers things. It wasn't necessarily a blow you out of the water performance, but he scored touchdowns. He looked good out there. He put up enough fantasy points for you to feel comfortable in your fantasy lineup. Both AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones had solid games. I think this is more or less kind of what we expected. I think we all probably would be starting Aaron Jones over AJ Dillon, but they limit each other's ceilings, right, guys? So going forward, Aaron Jones may be a running back 2 that you don't feel really confident in. And AJ Dillon a flex play. Simon, that's how I view it.
Yeah, AJ Dillon, you're hoping for a touchdown. I think he gets the work, but a lot of his value comes from those goal line carries that they're giving him. But he's fairly likely to find his way into the end zone. You got a back end RB1, and I would say, flex play back end RB2 from AJ Dillon with some high variance there.
JL, you agree with Simon?
I do agree with Simon.
And Jay, what about you?
Yeah, I'm with you. And I think Aaron Jones has been in that RB1 conversation, but he's not getting the targets. The targets, he had been the second pass catching option for Aaron Rodgers, and now it's looking like that might be MVS. So I'm with you.
So real fast, you're starting Devontae Adams regardless. For me, I understand the appeal of MVS, but Allen Lazard and him seem to keep going back and forth. I'm trying to stay away from the number 2 wide receiver on the Packers. Do you disagree though, Jay?
No, I completely agree with you. I think
you're staying away.
Yep. I treat the Packers wide receiver 2 similar to the Chiefs wide receiver 2. They've got a couple of guys who, depending on the matchup, depending on the game, somebody's going to show up, and it's highly unlikely you're ever going to be able to pick the right guy to start. So I'm looking to avoid this wide receiver core outside of Devonta Adams.
Anything different there from JL and Simon? Jay and I are avoiding the number 2 receiver if we can on the Packers. If there maybe emergency starts both Lazard and MVS, right?
MVS.
Go ahead, Simon.
Go ahead, Joe.
MVS is the one is the receiver I'd want, but it's absolutely based off your league, right? If you and your team, if you need someone like MVS, you need wide receiver going into the playoffs here, or throw in your lineup. I'd rather have him.
I'm with you, JL. You said exactly what I was going to say. If I have to pick one of them, it's MVS.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much everything. You're not really going to want to start the tight ends on the Packers side of the ball, even though Mercedes Lewis had 3 catches for 40 yards.
Guys, we are approaching the end here, but I want to make sure that we get some time to talk about these games that we have coming up over the next couple days. The first one I wanted to talk about was this Browns versus Raiders game. This was moved to Monday. I believe it's at 5 p.m. Eastern time. Yeah, so we got an earlier game on Monday night. Finish up your workday, turn on some NFL football, and watch the Browns without up to 20 of their players go up against the Las Vegas Raiders. So it might not be as great if you're a Browns fan, but there is still, before we talk about the game, I know, Josh, you had the lines for us. We were going to talk a little bit about that. I wanted to mention there are changed rules going into some of these games that have been postponed about players that can be reactivated off the COVID list. There's a report as of today that Baker Mayfield is still hoping that he'll be able to play. That's not confirmed. He's not off the list yet. As of right now, I believe Nick Mullins is expected to start, but there's a possibility Baker still gets out there. But Jarvis Landry not going to be out there. They're going to be missing a lot of their offensive line. It's going to be rough sledding for the Browns unless they're able to get a lot of players activated tomorrow. Josh, do the lines reflect that? Does the line reflect the Browns situation?
It really does not at all. The Raiders are playing at the Cleveland Browns at 5:00 Eastern time tomorrow, and the Raiders are 3-point underdogs. So the Browns are favored by 3 points. I know the Browns are home, but it kind of surprises me, all things considered, with the Browns having all these COVID concerns. And I think the Raiders are a solid team. So for me, I'm absolutely taking the Raiders +3 here. So I wanted to get your guys' opinion on that.
Yeah, I'm with you too. I'm a Browns fan, and I'm taking the Raiders +3 as well. That's basically a pick 'em is what they're saying. The only advantage they're giving Cleveland is home field advantage. And I'll take the Raiders there.
And JL, what did you say?
Yeah, I'm Raiders.
And then the over-under is 41.5. I am taking the over here, actually. I could see it being a lower scoring game, but this is a really low over-under, 41.5. And I think that's where the COVID concerns kind of come into play when we see the over-under. But I could still see a lot of points flying here. I'm not necessarily terrified of either of these defenses at the moment, so I'm taking the over 41.5. JL, what do you think?
Yeah, that one's tough. I could see it going either way. I would be staying away from that myself, but I feel like it's not gonna be close to that. It's either gonna go be way under or way over.
Yeah. I'm the Browns defense. I'm nervous about. I'm nervous about every aspect of the Browns with all the players that they have on the COVID list. It's a lot of starting players as well, and then their depth is affected. But even with their defense being beat up, expecting the Raiders to score more, I have little faith in the Browns offense in this game. I'll take the under there. I think it's an under on that total.
And Jay?
Yep, I'm on the under. Even, if the defenses don't play that well, with all the starters out, I don't see a lot of long drives being maintained to be able to put points up on the board. So give me the under.
Guys, sorry, go ahead, Josh.
No, we can move on to our next game.
Yeah, let's move on to our next game. Minnesota Vikings versus Chicago Bears. This game is going on tomorrow at 8:15. This is your regularly scheduled Monday night football game.
Yes, and it's so 8:15. The Bears are underdogs, so they are 6.5-point underdogs to the Minnesota Vikings, but they are at home. So I am taking the Bears plus 6.5. Jay, what do you think there?
6.5, man. Yeah, I think I'm going to stick with the Vikings. Even though it's a primetime game with Kirk Cousins, I still don't trust the Bears. The Vikings did release Rashad Breeland today, surprisingly. So their already suspect defense is even more suspect, but I just don't trust the Bears at this point.
I'm with Jay. Give me the Vikings.
And JL?
What was the line again?
6.5.
6.5. The Bears are at home. They are plus 6.5 points, and they played the Packers really tight last night. I mean, last week.
Last night. That's a short turnaround for games, man.
That is tough. I think I think I'll take the Bears in an upset, or at least to cover the spread.
The over-under is 44.5. The over-under is 44.5. I'm actually taking the under in this one.
I'm with you, Josh. I'm on the under as well.
The unders.
I think I would too. Yeah,
we're all going under.
Man,
here.
But that's not fun. The unders suck.
I know. We don't see a lot of scoring. That's why I'm taking the Bears plus 6.5. I don't see a lot of scoring here, so I want the points where I can get them at home.
That's fair, guys. Guys, we also have two games going on Tuesday this week. The first one being the Washington football team going up against the Philadelphia Eagles. And I know we talked earlier a little bit about the Eagles game with Jalen Hurts as being a positive matchup for him. Josh, what does the FanDuel Sportsbook line say about this game?
Both of these games start at Tuesday at 7:00. The Eagles are 6.5-point favorites, and that's who I'm taking here. 6.5-point favorites against the Washington football team, who might not have any of their quarterbacks for this game. So I like the Eagles minus 6.5, and the over-under is 42 points, and I'm taking the under there. So Jay, Eagles, they are minus 6.5, and the over-under is 42 points. What do you think there?
I'm going to take the Eagles because even if Gardner Minshew plays, there really wasn't that much difference. It looked like a different offense, but they still produced. So I still like the Eagles in that matchup. I'm going to go under as well, especially with the COVID issues. It's a divisional game. A lot of times you see those games are played a lot tougher, slower. So I'm going to go the under as well.
Simon? So the Eagles, they're minus 6.5, and the over-under is 42.
I'll take the Eagles. We don't even know who's going to be playing quarterback for the Washington football team. And the best case scenario is Taylor Heineke, who has looked poor recently. I'll take minus 6.5 on the Eagles side.
And then over under 42.
I'll take the under.
Yeah, we're all
a lot of unders for me.
JL.
I'll go Eagles and over.
Eagles and over. So one over from JL. One over from JL. There we go.
And Mr. Scamper said Curtis Samuel finally going to deliver at QB.
Probably.
That would be awesome. Guys, one more game. We're going to rapid fire through the lines for this last one, give our opinions on it. The Seattle Seahawks going up against the Los Angeles Rams. And before we get into it, Josh, right before the show, we were talking. So it sounds like Odell Beckham Jr. and Darrell Henderson are actually going to be available for this game. They were originally on the COVID list, but those are two guys. We haven't had much good news this week whenever it came to players playing, but there's some good news going into Tuesday Night Football. But Josh, what is the line on this game?
Absolutely. The Rams are at home and the Seahawks are 7-point underdogs. And I've actually liked what I've seen out of the Seahawks. I think Russell Wilson's getting back to form. I am taking the Seahawks +7. And then the over-under's 45.5, and I'm taking the over. I think this is good. There's going to be a lot of scoring in this game, personally. So I'm taking the Seahawks +7 over 45.5. Well, JL, we're coming to you first.
Yeah, I'm with you on both accounts, Josh.
Let's go, JL.
If the line was slightly lower, I think I would go Rams, though. It's close.
Yeah, give me the Rams. I think they're figuring it out. They're turning it on. I know they have some COVID issues this week. Odell and Darrell being back make me a lot more comfortable. I just have confidence that they're going to go out and look like one of the top teams in the NFL against this Seahawks team, and I think they're going to cover. And I'll take the over.
Jay.
Yeah, I'm definitely going over, and I'm with Simon on this one. Tyler Lockett isn't expected to play. There is potential with the new COVID rules that he could, if he's able to get 2 negative tests, he could play. But I just think he's been the most reliable wide receiver for Russell Wilson. So Jalen Ramsey I believe he's back as well. So I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, and I think that the Rams will cover.
Nice. Jay and I on the same side again on that one. Josh,
sounds like Jay and I are
right on the same side.
For a lot of things. Let's go.
Guys, I know Sunday Night Football has gotten underway, so we are going to get out of here. Go enjoy some football. You guys enjoy some football in the rest of your weekend as well. Before we go, a couple reminders. Number one, if you're watching this video and you haven't done so already, hit that like button and make sure you are subscribed to FanDuel on YouTube. And then head on over to TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. They're at FanDuel on all of those platforms. Twitch, and they have a whole team of awesome content creators helping you win your leagues and win some money. Guys, that is going to be it for us today, though. I just completely lost my train of thought. I'm thinking about the Buccaneers. I'm just thinking about that Mike Evans touchdown.
Trading makes fantasy fun, I guess I could say. Yeah.
You do often say that.
I say that a lot.
Guys, that's going to be it for us today. We will see you next week. Same time, same place. Until then, enjoy your football over the next couple of days. Adios, everyone.
It's going to be fun.